after a game like last week where we really didn't have a lot of good, the overall game, you want to put it behind you as fast as you can and get on to your next game. And it was one of those games where you just got whipped, both sides of the football, and we've had to just push it back and move on. And so because UMass had a great victory this past weekend, they're playing very good football. They're a very good team, and our players know they're still great. There's great possibilities out there, and so when you're on a skid, you're on a skid. You've got to respond. You've got to have a lot of enthusiasm. You've got to have a lot of positive focus, and get this thing turned back around, because it's been a tough 4 weeks for us, and it's a long way from that 4-2 and a victory over Pitt. But football has its ups and downs, and so we've got to stay. We're getting excited about this game because it gives us another opportunity. And like I told our players, go out there and play the best you can play this one. If you can go get this football game, you've got chances of having a great finish to your season. So the players have been excited. We've had a good week of practice, and we know we've got a team that's pretty dang hot. They have been explosive on offense, scored a lot of points, and I think they probably had their biggest win of the season this past weekend over Ball State.
All right.
Yeah.
Not to look back.
Yeah, but we got to look back.
I mean, especially when you took the lead in the first minute.
Right.
After that,
Right.
I mean, were you surprised tremendously the way that it went from there?
I mean, you don't know how things are going to go. You don't know that you're going to not be able to stop them. You're not going to know that you're going to go 3 and out the first 3 times that you get the ball on offense, and then the 4th time you get the ball, you're down 21-7. You have no idea. You go out there to play your best football, to do the best you can. You prepare the same way you prepared for the Pittsburgh, you prepared for Miami or East. Any of the games that we've played, we've tried to prepare the same way. They just did a great job. They came out there, we did not, and got after us. But yeah, I mean, are you you don't expect to go out there and go out there and get physically handled like we did, but we did, and that was one of those games. They came off their toughest loss of the year the week before, and did not play very well. It just got handled by Ohio. But now we've got to respond like other people have. If you look at our conference, every team almost that's out there fighting to get into a bowl has a point in time in this season where that record was such they had to make a decision one way or the other, and our players are facing that right now. They've got to respond. And we've got to go out to respond against a very good UMass team. But last week, I mean, you go out there and it didn't stop. I mean, it wasn't like it stopped at any point. They physically, I mean, I don't think they ever had to attempt a field goal. They ran for touchdowns every time. Offensive, we got a little bit going the second half, but every time we got close, especially when we came out the second half and scored to make it 27-17. You really said there's 10 points right there. Now we're the name. If we score next time, it's a ball game. I mean, Miami. To give you an example, UMass was ahead of Miami, 41-21 in the second half, and lost the football game. So you're going out there, but credit to Buffalo, they went out there and never relented, and they kept putting the pressure on our defense, and our offense could not come through and keep up with the pace. So we've got to put that one behind us and learn from it and move forward. And that's kind of where we are right now.
That UMass defense must have got better because they've been giving up a lot of points, but only 10 at Ball State.
Yeah, they have, and they take a very difficult. UMass is a team that they played a very, very difficult schedule, and their losses. You look at the amount of the differences in the score of their losses. They've lost from 42-41, 47-42. They've played a non-conference schedule. It's probably the toughest in the conference, and so they playing. Mark Whipple's is an outstanding head football coach, and he's done a great job as a head coach before, and he's got he's got a great quarterback that's one of the best in the country right now. I don't know what his status is, but he's done a great job with that. So yeah, so they have lost a lot of close football games. They have played some teams that have been able to score points, and so the scores have been high, but they've lost close ball games. I think Ball State was the first time they came out there and on both sides of the football They came out there on both sides of the football. Ball State's a little bit like us right now. When they turn the ball over, they struggle, and they looked a lot like us the way we've looked lately. 4 turnovers, and you can't find a way to win a close ball game when you do that. So we just got to go out there and play with a lot of enthusiasm, and the kids got to go out there and remember to go out there and just play with some excitement. You got to overcome you get some losses. You've got to get that out of your head and go focus on what you got to do to win the next ball game.
UMass always seems to play as tough.
Well, we played them twice, and we beat them. They beat us by a real tight ball game. Then we beat them. Yeah, I mean we're both been about the same. We've both been about the same place in our programs, is where we've been, and that's kind of where it's been, And so, but like I say, like I just said, if you look at their schedule and the scores of their games, whether it be Colorado or Vanderbilt, other than Penn State and Boston College, every single game they've played has been a tight ball game. And so they're a team you got to be ready. You've got to be able to produce based on what they have done. You've got to be able to produce offensively because you have to feel like they have the ability to put points on the board.
Senior night is Tuesday.
Right.
A lot of these guys have been here for 3 years with you. What kind of impact has this senior class made on the program and you?
Well, we're talking about some fifth-year seniors too that they've really. You think about, we've got some guys that really got committed by J.D. Burkhart that were committed to his class, and then came in and had 2 years with INL and 3 years with me. There's some guys that have stuck through a lot, and I'm proud of them. I mean, I want so badly for those guys to come out there and play great football on senior night because of what they've been through. The university has been through a lot of coaches and a lot of different people, and they've stayed right here. And they've been right here a part of this program. I think it's Sconyers and LT and quite a few of the guys that have been here during those times. And so I'm awful proud of those seniors. And at my age, I didn't come. It didn't seem like the right thing for me to do was come and say, okay, my way. I'm gonna get my guys in here. So long. We've tried to create a successful atmosphere here and not have to run everybody off to do it. And we've had a lot of success. We've had good success. That's why I like to see these guys come out and have a great senior night. They get excited about it because I've heard them talking about their parents coming in, their families coming in, and that means a lot to them, And it'll be our last home game for these seniors, and like I said, they've had quite a journey. I just want it to have. You'd like their last home game to be on a happy note, and so there'll be some incentive there. I'm not sure when it comes down to it whether you play better for mama or you don't play better for mama, but you like having them parents here and having a chance for them to see us. So it's an awful lot of seniors. I think we have 26 seniors. Now again, there's some transfers, some guys that have been here for the entire time. Those are large numbers of guys. But they've been a great group of guys. I'm glad I got to come here and be a part of their college experience because I know what they've been through, and these guys have never given up, never quit, never given up, and I'm awful proud of them.
Coach, talk about the mental aspects of the games. You just mentioned they're all fired up, their mom and dad.
Right.
Be here. Is it harder to read today's football players than it was years ago? Find out when they're ready to go.
Well, I don't know that you ever know for sure. I've told some people this. When I first became a head football coach, I was 26 years old, and I'd been a graduate assistant at Florida State from my father, and I got a head coaching job at a small school. And I remember one of the last things of advice my father gave me. He had said, Terry, just make sure you can block and tackle, and you're fundamentally sound because you can't get them up every week. They don't play their best. The kids don't get up the same for one game they do for the other, and there's an emotional high that you get certain times of the year, whether it be a rival or a big game or a crosstown rival or whatever that you don't get. You better have them fundamentally ready to play. Don't turn the ball over. Don't give up the big play. Block and tackle and keep those fundamentals. So is it harder to read? That advice comes 30 years ago, and I imagine he learned it 20 or 30 years before that. So I think it's never been totally easy. I used to I had a coach one time that would during pregame. He'd walk down and he'd have just a negative. Boy, we don't look ready to play. Don't look ready to play. I'm thinking, how in the world do you know if they look ready to play or not? And over the years, you find out that sometimes They drop a lot of passes in pregame. They have a great game. You go out there and you try to. You know what? I want my kids to be. I don't want to be beat up and tired. It's late in the season. I want to be fresh. I want to be excited and enthusiastic. After 8 games, after a tough mid-season, I don't want my kids beat up mentally. And so I believe we'll be fresh, and I believe we'll be excited. And I believe that these guys come out there will play their best football, and if that's enough for us to win, they will. But as far as predicting whether your kids are going to just come out and everything's going to click or everything's not going to click, sometimes you play hard, you don't play good. You know, sometimes the game plan, the strategy isn't quite. Coaches don't do it. We coaches don't quite have the right game plan, the one that's the best suited. We put together something that's not as. But I think if you fundamentally sound, you block and tackle, play with a lot of enthusiasm, that's what you can expect. But I don't get too caught up, too worried about things you can't control, and it's hard to decide whether your guys are at emotional peak or not. It's really hard to determine that.
Did you tell you this obviously is not a dirty player?
Right.
Did they give you an explanation, or was the helmet?
Well, you know, it's a tough one to call. I mean, the official makes his decision on the field. I mean, there's two things going on here. One, he went in high with his hands to block the pass, and when the hands came down to the head. Not in a way to hurt the head, but just because they came down on the head, and I think as he did now, I didn't even see head-to-head contact, but the official said he called it, he had to call it, and Javis is a pretty class kid, and we lost him for over half the football game, our best player. It's unfortunate, but apparently if the official felt like it was a rule that he could not, because it wasn't intentional, he didn't try to hurt the guy, it wasn't flagrant. But the way he tried to knock the pass down as the quarterback was throwing and followed through, the hands led first to the helmet area, and the official said he called it because he had to call it. I think you should bend over backwards when you talk about ejecting a person from a football game. We already had one ejected this year, and found out midweek the next week that the official said, "Well, we made a mistake. Nothing happened."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, why did you throw him out without knowing for sure that something happened? Well, we just made a mistake. Well,
They reviewed that.
right. Now he's already missed a game and a half.
The TV one that we saw, we
Right.
could see the booth
Right.
next to us. You really couldn't tell. I mean,
Yeah, we couldn't tell on the coach's film. But again, you know what I told our players? I said, "Man, we had 2 or 3 personal fouls that were really close." I said, "How come we got the really close ones and they didn't? Let's understand that the officials aren't after us. If it's close, don't do it. If it's on the edge, don't do it." And we had a couple of times, 2 or 3. None of them were bad. We had 3, and I don't think any of them were really bad. Like you'd say, these are intentionally trying to harm somebody. But they were ones where, man, the rule says when the whistle blows, you got to stop. You can't keep on going. And we had some that were down the wire. And also, we had some players that retaliate. A guy jabs you and you jab back. Well, when a player tells me that, I don't even want to hear about the guy that jabbed first. I said, it's a given that we've told you that guy's never going to get caught. So don't tell me that somebody poked you in the belly first and you punched him back or you pushed him back. That's selfish. I said, the fact is that part's never seen. Your part is. You went back knowing that only your part, so don't tell me that the first thing happened. We assume that's what you're going to say regardless. But anyway, we've got to do a good job there, because I thought when we drove down and scored, at the second half, they came back with a couple personal fouls and led to another score. At that point, you were sitting at a possibility of getting back in that football game, and we let it slip away.
With that rule, don't you think they should try to take intent into consideration? Because it looks like they're just
All right.
calling it to the letter of the law.
Well, I don't think George is, and I'm gonna try to put the college game is concerned with one thing right now, and I won't say obsessed, but very concerned with concussions. They're very concerned with head injuries, and rightfully so. It's been a major concern. So they're going to bend over backwards, and I think we have to be cognizant of that when we play, that they are bending over backwards to be very, very serious any kind of head contact at all, or unprotected player contact. Now, I just would want them to be very sure if it's not a. We've had several personal fouls that we had several Saturday that were, like I said, there weren't bad ones, but they were callable. So anyway, we just got to not do it. If to me, there's two teams out there. Both teams have to know to be very, very careful not to have head-to-head contact. I think we only had one of those, but any kind of late hits or things like that as well.
Any other questions?
So there's no further ramifications?
No, I think he missed so much of the game that he's not being held out of another game. My understanding is that. But there was no, I don't think you're going to see it. There's not, how you get video and you have indisputable evidence. I think last time the incident occurred with Isaiah Williams, there's sufficient evidence to say nothing happened. This one, you can't. The play goes on to some other angle, and you could not see, and so you have to go with the decision. I know Jatavius felt bad. He's a real leader of our football team. He had to, he has to leave the field, go get dressed, leave the sideline, and that's a tough situation.
Looked like Kyle Pohl tweaked his ankle or knee a little bit.
He's been fine all week. Yeah, I think he had a little. The diagnosis was negative, and so he's come out and practiced well. So I don't see any problem there with him.